So what should we make of all the stories flying around in terms of excuses or budget hands or budget rats, and you have budget mafia, budget... What do you make of all of those kind of stories?
Those stories are only valid if the president hadn't presented the budget himself. The president took the budget to the House himself. It wasn't the Minister of Finance or the Minister of Budget and Planning. He took it himself. And by that act, it's an act of responsibility. So he can't drop the budget and claim he hadn't approved of the budget.
Unless the budget rats had got Lassa fever, nobody could touch them.
Possibly.
But then, are we encouraged by the fact that they said, put this online, let Nigerians see this budget?
Yes, we are. We also have a lot of young Nigerians that have, even though the government is shy of putting it online, a lot of young Nigerians, we have shown a video of budgets, is made strong and very commendable efforts in uploading the budget. So for viewers at home that are listening, if they go to his own website, yourbudget.com, I think that's it.
And the budget is also online. I mean, it's on the federal government's budget, Ministry of Budget and National Planning, I think.
Yeah, but for the level of, for those that want to see it in more visually appealing way, they'll be able to understand it if they don't want to go through all that. And putting it online was also done last year. So by putting it online doesn't improve the accuracy of the budget.
In terms of the fine details. Because all we normally get is not the fine details in the budget, the website.
Well, it wasn't online prior to presentation. It only came online after it was presented.
So you expect it to be online before they present it?
We should be able to have, apart from the medium-term expenditure framework that we have, putting the budget online post-presentation doesn't really give much flexibility for people to... All it just gives is for us to be able to criticize it, and for the Senate to also then be able to look at the areas that we're talking about, for example, today.
Isn't that
what
transparency?
we want?
Yes, we could give the government commendation for doing that, if that's what we need to summarize it as.
Okay, what you're hoping will happen is that people will be able to criticize it before it is presented?
Exactly. We need to be able to critique it thoroughly prior to presentation, because once it is presented, the assumption that is that it is ready to be approved.
What do you make of this zero budgeting system?
The gentleman that was here before me, I talked about it being zero budget based from the paddings from the back. And I think that's right. It's we expected more from the narrative of zero budgeting system. The VPR talked about the potential 8 trillion naira budget initially. What we have right now is within the budget for the installation of a budget planning software, and I'm not saying purchase, we have a 55 billion naira budget for the a 55 million naira budget for the installation of a software. So clearly there's a lot of zeros behind that shouldn't be necessary. It's different from software acquisition, which is for already a bogus figure, 268 million naira for software acquisition. Then we have for installation, and the dictionary definition of installation regarding computers is you open the CD-ROM and you put in a CD. So it's surprising when you look at the presidency budget, and you see installation of a budget software for 55 million naira. It defeats or changes the definition of a zero-based budgeting system. It does change the definition. And those that are responsible for creating the budgets, for supervising the budgets, are failed in their responsibilities. One of the reasons why they failed is because they've also failed to critically analyze the budget line by line. If the budget had been analyzed thoroughly by their essays, by their advisors, by their team, which I've always said at various times, it is a teamwork. So if one person in the team drops the baton, then everybody fails?
At this rate, will you be looking to see a defense of the budget in the media space?
Yes, I will. We need to do that. We need to do that. As journalists, as analysts, we need to call for that. It has to be redefended. It has to be redefended. As it is right now, it's a budget of scam.
So what do you think the National Assembly can do about it? Should we trust that they will be able to, right the wrongs or the fraud that we've seen in this budget?
The challenge is, who then owns the budget? Will it be the legislators' budget, or will it be the executive's budget?
Isn't it a budget for Nigerians? I mean, should we engage in that sort of debate? It's a budget. It's supposed to be for the good of everybody.
But someone has to own the budget. And in most times, because the budget comes from the person that's prepared the budget, it takes first line of responsibility. And all ministries had contributed to the budget. So you have the NSA, who has his own budget of over 90 billion. He had clearly stated his projects he wants to appropriate money on. So what you will find out is there will be a significant review of the budget, which will be totally disconnected to what was presented. And then what we will most likely foresee in the future is ministries giving excuses that they couldn't perform because the budget wasn't presented on time and because what they had sent in was removed. So the days ahead are darker than the days behind.
How serious do you think they're treating what they've seen with this budget? Because if a minister appears before the Senate and says, whoa, and is shocked by the figures he's seen, but unfortunately the processes won't allow him to take the budget away and go do it the way he wants. But this is what we're faced with.
So clearly, you will expect if the minister is surprised, it simply means that how does the budget travel? How does the budget travel? What courier service is being used to move the budget when it leaves the ministry to when it gets to the National Assembly? And that shows there's still a lot of corruption between the travel space. So it moves from the ministry to the presidency and into the National Assembly. So within those lines, we can clearly see there are a lot of corrupt practices. Because why would you change within that line something that was presented from another ministry? And in most times, when the budget leaves the ministry, it goes with the signature of at least the PERMSEC and the minister.
If we're not careful, could we be busy pursuing corruption, maybe with the big political figures, and then miss those little things that we should focus on?
And I strongly think that's what has happened. I strongly think that's what has happened. A lot of emphasis, a lot of discussions has gone into corruption, which the president, from even his own communication, has shown. A lot of energy and time has gone into insecurity, and we failed to be thorough with money matters. And we are still failing to be thorough with money matters. And that's why people are asking, what are we really doing with the various policies that are coming out? Some will say there's no direction, some will say there's a direction. But clearly, regarding money matters, the narrative isn't sweet.
And the views predominantly of many people who are watching, giving us feedback via our various social media platforms, they seem to be asking for one thing: unmask those behind this. Do you share that view?
Certainly, certainly. As long as they are not ghosts, it'll have been understood if the budget had been eaten up, then we could say they were rats. But the budget hasn't been eaten up. The budget has just been mispresented and misrepresented.
Well, that's where we draw the curtains for this segment. Babajide Ogunsanwo, data and information analyst, thank you for your thoughts. We'll be back in a minute. We've got another perspective on the same matter. You could also keep your views coming through as you see. We appreciate all of them. Don't go away.